letter that you sent to the FAA requesting assistance after our last meeting in November. We were pleased to see that you suggested an approach similar to the select committee. That kind of dialogue is what I think is needed to make progress on a complex issue like this. And we were glad to see that you wrote that San Jose stands ready to appropriately participate in any FAA review of this issue. I'd also like to acknowledge and appreciate your policy statement on the website, from which I'm going to quote selectively. The Commission investigates, studies, and reviews matters as requested by, among others, the general public. The Commission's policy is to meet the needs of the traveling public without unduly affecting property and persons located near the airport. People are here tonight because they feel their property and persons have been unduly affected. We just heard a report that indicated 44,000 noise complaints in January. I know there is another forum for entering noise complaints that's much simpler. It requires one click. That has 16,400 complaints in January, twice as many people complaining. So the noise report that we hear here isn't the final word on people that are upset. I'd also like to acknowledge the members of the audience who have come to this meeting to express their support for this difficult issue and the resolution here. They're deeply upset. 3 months ago, you heard from people who dread reverse flow days. Some people talk about selling their homes, which can cost several $100,000 if you have to sell a home that you're not planning on. And that may involve many years of savings, more likely people feel threatened. The FAA says it understands why the community has noticed change, and they put it down to weather. I have FOIA data, which I've got, which captures all flights into the airport from January 1st, 2013 through September 24th of 2016. I've analyzed that data. In the area above downtown Mountain View, there were 2.75 times as many flights as we had after the changes as before. After factoring out the change in weather, after adjusting for the increase in operations, there are still 2.2 times as many flights. So this is not just about weather. This is a significant increase independent of that. And it's almost certainly worse over Sunnyvale, and the numbers get worse if you cut the data differently. The FAA said that aircraft have overflown Sunnyvale for 20 years, and I'd like to show you what that looks like. If you'll refer to slide 2 in the package that I gave you, you can see the distribution of traffic over Sunnyvale and Mountain View just before the rollout of NextGen. And on slide 3, you can see a day that has the same number of flights after the rollout. There's concentration, and if you look at the difference between the arrow near Sunnyvale and the flights there versus the flights afterwards, you can see that the flights have moved. We don't have a lot of data from 10 years ago, but if you take a look at the next slide, you'll see a chart that shows patterns at that point in time. And if you go to the slide after that, you can see that I superimposed the corridors of traffic from 10 years ago and probably 5 years ago, because we don't know exactly when it changed, but we think it was 5 years ago, on top of the flow from 2014, and then you can see the corridor that we have today, very tight. And you will see that there's been a slow shift of that corridor to the west by about a nautical mile from the original waypoint, which was 2 nautical miles east of where we now are at some point in the distant past. There's a lot of anecdotal evidence that planes are noisy. We have evidence that we can point to, and on the last slide you see how waypoints have moved and guidance on speed at force over terrain, and altitude was lowered. The timeline of changes is not something I have time to go through here, but there are plenty of changes that have been made which can explain a lot of the increase in noise, the shift, and the concentration. There's evidence that we lack. We don't know if there's more use of brakes by airplanes, which is extremely noisy. We don't know if there's more use of jets to maintain lift and thrust. We don't know if airplanes are flying at a faster speed. All of these things can contribute tremendously to the noise of airplanes. And that was found to be a part of the problem by the Committee on South Bay Arrivals when they investigated the reasons for the increase in noise over Palo Alto, Los Altos, and other areas. Something that they are in the process of addressing now. I'd ask you for a moment to consider the morality of what's happened here. Is there a more unjust policy than taking all of the noise of arrivals into the airport, concentrating it into a narrow corridor, and then moving that corridor over people who were not under a flight path before? I can't think of one. So we look to San Jose Airport and airport commissioners to lead on this issue. We see the San Francisco roundtable, at which the FAA is participating. We know that there was an airport noise advisory committee for many years, more than 20, that was disbanded in 2013. The Mountain View City Council is making a trip to Washington, D.C. next month. They're trying to meet with the FAA, and they plan to ask them for a regional forum to address these issues. I think it's important to recognize this moment for what it is. By concentrating air traffic, the FAA has voiced on you and other airports an inflection point in noise. The stakes are high, especially at San Jose. You had a 13% increase in operations next year. Your master plan projects for a doubling of noise in the 12-year period that we're just beginning. And we believe that complaints are going to rise faster than operations. Moving flight paths has unduly impacted thousands of people. You are caught up in a national issue which will require responses at all possible levels, with the special twist of this shift in air traffic that we have experienced here. This has happened at SFO too, and working with the select committee, the FAA is working to try and move back to the ground path that they had before the shift. So you may be asking yourself, what can the airport do? Well, you are the only body short of Congress that has both mandate and effective tools. Both the mandate and effective tools to make changes. The FAA Act of 1958 pushed control of noise to communities, but in the 60s, states and localities got preempted by federal law. The airport operators are in a special place where they can use tools that are not available to cities and other governments. There are tactical things that you can do. First, update your noise stack. It says flight paths have not been largely impacted by changes due to next gen, and that's clearly not true. Second, gather better data. A one-click interface for complaints like stopjetnoise.net, I think will give you a better sense for the upset that is in the community. Review the location of the noise monitoring systems that you have deployed. Are they under the current flight paths, or are they where they were a few years ago before things changed? Invest in technology that contributes to the mitigation of sound. And persuasion. Your master plan talks about using the quietest stage 3 aircraft, and to the extent you can work with airlines to ensure something like that happens, by all means, let's move down that path. And the unique tool that airport operators have is business incentives and disincentives. Fleets serving Heathrow are 15% quieter than other airports in Europe because they use business incentives and disincentives to try and get to get quieter airplanes into Heathrow Airport. That's all stuff within your direct control. The indirect control involves discussions with the FAA and ATC, and we have to tease them to the table somehow. Undoing the concentration, there's a lot to talk about. We can move the waypoint back from the recent shift to the previous place, which is called Jesmond. We can undo the shift in flight paths, perhaps by changing the final approach fix a little closer, something that was thought possible. Maybe a tighter turning radius would be possible. Optimizing descent profiles for sound, very important. Guidance for speed at source was raised by 30 knots in the last year or two, and that could cause a 4 decibel increase in noise on the ground. Huge difference. Train air traffic control to optimize sound in transitions from the star approach to the approach paths. A lot of what's going on here is in that nebulous area between the end of the star procedure and the start of the approach path. The eastern approach path should have its historic share of traffic, and as was noted earlier, there's a select committee suggestion on the table that should be chased down to see whether it makes sense or not. We want to engage with you, the FAA, and air traffic control. People have a lot of energy on this issue. There's a petition going around demanding relief and representation. Regional meetings are being held of concerned citizens. There's a national movement. There's a Quiet Skies caucus with something like 23 members in Congress. And we ask you to maintain your engagement on this issue. Respond to the FAA, tell them their analysis is incomplete, that there are options to explore, encourage them to join a forum for dialogue, because it's going to take dialogue to solve this. It's not going to happen with back and forth let it be known to local governments that you stand ready to engage. I'd like to tell the Mountain View City Council that when they go to the FAA, that you're here to help. Engagement of the FAA might be a chicken and egg problem. Maybe that we need to send. Is that me?
Please call it that in.
That was bad. Engagement of the FAA might be a chicken and egg problem. Consider the Airport Noise Advisory Committee. That may bring the FAA to the table. It did with SFO. And lastly, we want you to know that if there's anything that we can do to help you help us, we stand ready to help you do that.
Okay,
Thank you
Mr.
very
Hubbard,
much.
thank you for a
Thank you.
very comprehensive. So we have 3 more speakers to come up, and then if the commission has questions, we could ask, and then we'll have a discussion. So with that, I would like to call Marie Jo Fremont, and then next Chuck Shee, and then Jennifer. If you'll please step up, you have 2 minutes